Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for holding this hearing, and thanks to both of the witnesses for coming today. My first question, both of you, it just picks up on something that Senator Ernst just mentioned. Since less than 20% of the Farm Bill now actually supports our producers, isn't it vitally important that we make sure that it's adequate to support those producers that produce the highest quality, lowest cost food supply, which not only benefits all the folks that are on supplemental nutrition assistance payments, but everybody in America? Would you agree with that? So it's very important that we get the 20% that goes to farmers right and that it's adequately resourced. Would you agree with that, each of you?
We would.
Yes.
Good. Along those lines, producers over and over tell me, and I think others, that crop insurance is our #1 risk management tool. Would you agree with that? And doesn't that mean that we need to make sure that it's adequately updated and resourced for them? Would you both agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
How about the counter-cyclical safety net? Right now we have ARC and PLC. Do you both believe it needs to be updated, both ARC and PLC, so that it provides the necessary support now? Would you both agree with that? And any recommendations you would have to doing that? Unless you don't agree, then I don't want to hear your recommendations.
I certainly agree, and we do think it's time to increase the reference prices and those price triggers in both programs, and certainly we would also advocate and encourage the committee to consider a dual enrollment option also of ARC and PLC.
So the flexibility is important.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Mr. Duvall.
I would agree. Also, it's just vitally important that we recognize what it really costs to grow a crop. On my farm this year, I paid 300% more for nitrogen than I did last year. 300%. Who can absorb that in their budget and continue to operate? No one can.
Right. Both fuel and fertilizer inputs are, much higher for our producers. And then along those lines, wouldn't you both agree that if we get this right, that reduces the need for ad hoc disaster assistance in the out years? Would you both agree with that?
Yes.
We hope.
Well, I understand. If we need it, I'm going to be there working with you. But getting this right should help mitigate that need, shouldn't it?
Absolutely.
You both agree with that. For our livestock producers, obviously we've got to work on markets, on competition, on transparency. Would you both agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
And then also talk to me about both LIP, Livestock Indemnity Program, and ELAP, Emergency Livestock Assistance Program. Shouldn't we do more with those two programs so that for our livestock producers, they have some of that same type of risk management that our farmers do? And do you have recommendations on those livestock programs, specifically LIP, ELAP, or others? Mr. Duvall.
I do not have the recommendations to give to you today, but we can do that through staff. But yes, I think it's just as important to make sure that our livestock producers have the same risk management tools that we would in row crop areas.
Thank you. Mr. LaRue.
Absolutely. The need is there. We ought to work to address it.
Okay, let's talk about conservation programs. I know programs that are very important to our chairman. And so in terms of these programs, seems to me that if they're going to, for these programs to work, they need to be farmer friendly. They need to be farmer friendly so that it actually helps the producer out there. They're the landowner, right? So in terms of these programs, I think it's very important that they're voluntary. And it's not a one-size-fits-all. Starting with you, Mr. Duvall, would you comment on in regard to those points?
Yes, we mentioned earlier that all regions across the country is different. So conservation programs are different from one region to the other. Climate projects are different from one region to the other. And one size doesn't fit all. So we have to have the research and development dollars being spent to give us the right practices that we need to be in conservation. And then we need to make sure that the monies are there available. I mentioned earlier that the list for EQIP, all my working years have been long, and a lot of times I'd get into it and a lot of times I wouldn't get into it.
Right, it's a big, diverse world out there in agriculture, so voluntary and not one-size-fits-all is vitally important for the success of these programs.
That's exactly right.
Mr. LaRue?
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think the success of that particular model of being voluntary and having that flexibility in there is proven out by the fact that many of these programs have historically been oversubscribed and underfunded. And so, making sure that we have the resources in there to serve as many as possible is really important.
Again, thanks to both of you. Thank you, Madam Chair.